What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Tone Nerds. My name is Ruben.
I'm Micah.
And today we're going to be doing a rig rundown for you guys. So let's get into it. In our last episode, we talked about the importance of having a really good signal chain, and today we're going to be talking through Micah's current rig. Now, before we get into your pedal board, tell us a little bit about how you got started with like the whole pedals world.
Yeah, so when I got into pedals, it was a kind of a different time as far as not as many options available in terms of manufacturers, and where I lived at the time, there wasn't a lot of options in terms of music stores. So it was really about availability and budget. Obviously, being a poor college student.
Yep, college students, we feel for you.
Yes,
we spent our lunch money on pedals too.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But my first pedal was a Dan Electro Cool Cat 18 volt chorus pedal.
Awesome name.
Yes. I had no idea how to use a chorus pedal at the time, but it looked cool.
That's an interesting first purchase, like a chorus pedal. I feel like it's usually like an Overdrive is people's most like first pedal. So.
Yeah. Well, this one, you got to understand, it was the coolest colored pedal in the guitar shop.
That makes sense.
Got to go with that.
Yeah.
But so that was pedal number one, and then I wanted all my pedals to match.
Nice. The monochromatic board.
So naturally, I had to purchase a Dan Electro Daddy-O.
Okay. Nice.
Overdrive, and then I had to get a Dan Electro Fab Tone, which is like their distortion pedal, which. In hindsight, it basically is just a white noise generator. It's rough, man. But I went back a couple years ago and I was like, I just want to get these pedals, find these pedals
just
on eBay,
to revisit them.
And I bought them for like on the cheap, like $25 a piece.
Oh, nice!
And just to have them and run through them, and they sound about as bad as I remember. Yeah, maybe worse.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started, and then it escalated quickly from there.
Yeah. All right, Micah. So we have your rig. Talk me through kind of your signal chain and your philosophy and like putting it all together and building your tone.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all starts, number one with a guitar. So this is my Gretsch Falcon. This is my baby. And this is this is where it starts right here. So
it's a nice guitar.
I play this. This is probably my primary guitar, I would say, and I also have a Fender Jazzmaster American Professional 2 that I really like as well. That's kind of my single coil guitar, but yeah. So that gets us into my board, and this is where the fun starts here. So we got first thing in the chain, compression. That feeds into EQ. I like to have those in the front, and then you have your gain, kind of gain pedals here, gain world, volume pedal. And then we go into our wet effects, so modulatory effects, into my amp modeler, and then into delay and reverb after that. With compression, number one, I have an ego compressor, which I love. Ego compressors. It's my favorite compressor by far. Compression's one of those things I've been kind of back and forth on. So a lot of guys like compression after drive, and I've kind of gone back and forth, before drive, after drive. There's some things I like about it, after a drive pedal, but the thing that really ultimately decided it for me is I just don't like the noise, extra noise it adds from the drive pedals that amplifies the noise. So with that being said, compressor is at the front of my chain. My EQ pedal, this is a Walrus EB10, and I absolutely love this pedal. Like the best part about it probably is there's 3 presets, so you can actually dial in the EQ that you like, save it as a preset. So if you're using multiple guitars, this is great for you switch. I switch from the Falcon to the Jazzmaster. I just have to hit a button. I can pull up my Jazzmaster EQ, and I'm off and running. Not a lot of knob turning and things like that. So I actually saw this on Nate Duggar's board. He plays for Drew Holcomb, the Neighbors. Really liked the flexibility it gave me there, so I stole it from him. Not the pedal, but just the idea. Okay, next is my drive section. So I got the OCD into the Bell, into the EP booster, into the Euphoria. This section, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. It changes frequently, but conceptually, it's pretty consistent. So the Euphoria is like my transparent drive. It's very similar to like a Greer Lightspeed. This pedal, if I ever take it off my board, it doesn't stay off of there for any more than like a week, and I immediately put it back on. I love this pedal. And what I do with these other pedals is I do like to stack them with Euphoria. So if I'm running drive, the Euphoria is on. If I want to get kind of a mid gain kind of sound, that's where I'm going to be using the Bell to stack into the Euphoria. I like the way these pedals push the Euphoria and just gives you like a really nice sound. If I'm going for high gain, it's going to be the OCD into the Euphoria. One thing that some of you guys may be thinking is like, well, that's kind of weird that you're running a clean boost before the Euphoria. Why don't you run it after? Well, I kind of like the way the EP booster pushes the Euphoria a little bit. Doesn't break it up a lot more, but it just does something to it that just makes it a little fatter, a little more overtones. So I don't know. Feel free to disagree with me, but I kind of like the way those two work together. After my drive, I feed my drive section into my volume pedal. This is kind of like the compressor. I've kind of gone back and forth through the years. Do I put the volume before drives? Do I put it after drives? I really like volume after drives because when it's after the drives, then your guitar signal is hitting the drive pedals and you're getting that full drive sound. So when you swell in, you're getting the full drive sound throughout the whole spectrum of the volume pedal. It's not just, you're not swelling in and gaining up at the same time. So that, I feel like for swells specifically, it works a lot better. Out of my volume pedal, I have a tuner out. So I run, the TU3S there. It takes a little bit less board space up. So it's kind of nice to have the smaller tuner option there. Once we get past the volume pedal, that's when we start our stereo signal here. So first thing it goes into is the Mobius. It goes in mono, it goes out stereo. With the Mobius, tons of different effects on here. We could do a whole demo just on the Mobius. But the three ones that I probably use more than anything else are going to be like your vintage tremolo, going to be your chorus, and then going to be your rotary. Those sound amazing, especially in stereo. A lot of flexibility. Even within each of those, there's a lot of different tones you can get. From the Mobius, we go to the amp modeler, which I use the UA Ruby. Amazing pedal. This is probably, of all the modelers I've played, this is my favorite one. Sounds great. A lot of flexibility in terms of tones you can get there. Really like a Ruby. I'm a big fan of that. After the Ruby, that's when we get into our Timeline and Big Sky MX. I feel like that was really a pretty big game changer for me in terms of just getting much clearer delay and reverb sounds, is putting it after the modeler. So that's kind of where I'm at. I got the Timeline first. Timeline feeds into the Big Sky MX, which I loved. My Big Sky probably was my favorite pedal on my board. When I heard the MX came out, I had to buy it. The wife was mad about it, but I had to buy it. A lot of really cool new features on it. And again, I could do a whole other demo on that. But series reverbs, parallel reverbs, more processing power, really cool stuff. So that's an exciting pedal as well. And then from there, that feeds into a Daiso Plus, which is on the underside of the board.
Now, before we move on, I do want to talk about that Daiso Plus because I feel like that's a huge game changer for anybody who's playing out of an amp modeler. I know we both kind of struggled with like wimpy signals when we first made the switch from like tube amp to amp modeler.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about like what the Daiso Plus is?
Yeah, so a Daiso Plus is a line isolator. It does run a stereo signal, and it was designed specifically, with amp modelers in mind, because a lot of people were having the same issues that we were having.
Yeah.
It's like trying to find ways to boost your signal because you just weren't getting a great signal through traditional DIs.
Yeah, because the amp modelers themselves were great, but the signal was kind of weak, and so we're missing all the nuance of that like tube amp sound that we're getting from these modelers.
That's right.
And it was just kind of unfortunate because it's like, these are great pedals, but the signal's weak.
Yeah.
And we were playing out of radial DIs at the time, and those are not like wimpy DIs. They're pretty good DIs, but even still, they just weren't meant for amp modelers.
Yeah, they were developed before those came on scene.
Yeah.
So
now the last thing I do want to talk about is I know at one point you were running your board through a Midi controller. So pretend I'm like new to pedalboard world. Like, what's the benefit of having all of your pedals going through Midi, and what was kind of the drawbacks that made you kind of resort back to just going analog and clicking pedals on and off?
yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I had a product. It was a DPC5 made by Disaster Area. Amazing product, but it was not only a MIDI controller, it was also a switcher. So the great thing about it is you have tons of banks, and you have presets in each one of those banks, and you can build scenes on every single one of those. So, if we're playing a song and you have a verse, chorus, bridge, you can literally save a scene for each of those. So when it comes to playing the song, it's great. You just tap your thing and you're going.
Just kind of clicking on multiple pedals.
Yeah,
at
you're
one
controlling.
time.
You're controlling your entire pedal board from one controller. So that part is cool.
Yeah.
The reason I'm not running it now is because just I feel like with our situation where every week is a different set. Rehearsal, you got to have some flexibility there in terms of like just trying to figure out your sound in a song. The problem with that setup is it's not really easy to just kind of tweak on the fly, because I mean you can attest to how many times
every time we wanted to get like a new sound, I would just hear from next to me just click 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 click, trying to cycle through like from bank number 1 to bank number 30 of your sound.
Exactly. So that part was a headache. Now once you got the sound dialed in, it was fantastic. But I think for my situation, it just wasn't like really the best fit. Yeah. If I was a touring musician and I'm playing the same set night after night, it would be unbelievable. But it's just not the situation I'm in.
Yeah. If you're like, hey, here's my lead sound, here's my chorus sound, my rhythm sound, and you're just kind of cycling through those night after night on the same music, it's like, oh, boom, this is perfect. But having the flexibility to just turn a single pedal on and off. In a kind of typical church situation when you're doing different songs every week.
That's right.
It really is. Yeah. The flexibility is nice.
That's right. And that's probably more a limitation of the switcher side of it, honestly, more than the MIDI. Yeah. Just because the MIDI, the MIDI just controls the pedals. I mean, I could turn on my reverb pedal without having to use the MIDI controller for that. But I feel like maybe the switcher part is probably more limiting than maybe the MIDI piece for me. So that's my rig rundown. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Feel free to drop in the comments, your signal chain or some of your favorite pedals, or if you have any questions or comments about anything we talked about today.
Yeah. And so feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time for the next episode.